My name is Sister Maris Stella, and I teach second grade here at St. Jude. And I want to share a little bit with you about my vocation story in the light of what's happening in our community right now. So I think when we look around and we see the absence of the sacraments and the inability to attend Mass, it can seem like something that's purely a negative, and obviously it is. It's an incredible hardship for all of us. But I want to share with you that my own vocation sort of began in a similar time for my family. And so even though we're bound by the sacraments and we receive grace through the sacraments, our Lord is not, and his generosity is never outdone. So when I look back at my own life, I really think that my vocation began at a time when my family wasn't able to attend Mass. I grew up in rural British Columbia on the west coast of Canada, and my father was in federal law enforcement, so we were stationed in a lot of crazy small places. But for 3 years we were stationed on a small island off the coast of British Columbia, there were about 12 people where we lived, and the only way in or out was by boat or float plane. And we would boat once a year to Mass for the Easter Triduum. And my siblings and I were pretty young at the time, and I think that could have been a really detrimental experience for our faith, certainly at a formative point in our lives. To really only go to Mass once or maybe twice a year certainly isn't a normal experience, or one we would really choose or wish, and I know it was a real hardship for my parents. But that experience, I think, really was the beginning of my vocation for a couple of reasons. First of all, seeing my parents' love of the sacraments and their willingness to go to incredible lengths to make the sacraments available to us was hugely formative. And then also, the fact that we didn't have the sacraments led to a deeper prayer life for my family, but also for me personally, that I think opened me up to hearing a call to religious life that I might not otherwise have heard. So that beautiful love of the sacraments sort of blossomed, and I have crazy memories of my parents piling us into a little boat and boating 80 nautical miles through complete wilderness to get to Mass, and that experience sort of has stuck with me as a litmus test of, do I really love the sacraments? Because if my parents were willing to put their lives and ours on the line to get us to Mass, am I grateful enough for the gift that I have? My mom in particular can't stand water or boats or planes, and really for the 4 hours we were in the boat, she would just simply pray the rosary nonstop. And I have visions of her holding whoever the baby was and just praying for those 4 hours, and we would try and talk to her, and you really couldn't get anything out of her. Because it was so nerve-wracking for her. But just seeing her willingness and the complete lack of hesitation on her part to jump in the boat because this meant Mass, that had a profound impact, I think, on all of us, but certainly on my own faith. And then just watching my dad, who is a cautious, careful person, and knowing that he was putting us all at risk to get to Mass. And we had a few close calls on a number of occasions where he knew that if something went wrong, it was pretty problematic. There wasn't much he could do if something went wrong. But looking at his love of the sacraments and how everything was worth it to get us to Mass really has given me a love of the Eucharist. So looking back, when I think of those 3 years without the Mass, largely, I think that if God can do something so crazy in my own life as give me a vocation to religious life through that experience, or use that as the beginnings of my vocation, I look around now and I think if we're open, God can do amazing things with this time. Certainly it is an incredible hardship, and that's not lost on any of us. But if we're open to God's grace, he can use it so beautifully to help us to grow. And I think looking back, sometimes people ask, how can we help our young people to grow in their faith? And there were a couple of things that my parents did very intentionally when we didn't have Mass. And that one of those was to make Sunday very special. And I think that's something we can do now. We would always dress up. We didn't really have the option of watching Mass, but we would read the readings. We would have Sunday brunch together and pray some of the prayers from the Mass of that day. Sunday was very much set aside. And then the fact that my parents showed us and let us sort of have a glimpse into their own love of the sacraments and their own prayer. I remember my mom teaching us all the spiritual communion, and just seeing their love allowed us to grow. And I'm so grateful that they didn't hide the pain that they had at missing the sacraments from us and let us see those experiences, because I think that was part of what was so formative, certainly for me, and I think also for my siblings. So I would encourage you to really take time to make Sunday special, watch the Mass together as a family, and really let your children see you pray, and let them see your love of the sacraments. And then finally, just as we return to normal one of these days and we're able to go back to Mass, I think we have a beautiful privilege of a deeper understanding of the gift we have that maybe at times we can take for granted. And I know in my own life, it's a challenge for me. It challenges me, this experience, to never take for granted the Mass. And I think now we're all in that situation together where we're never going to look at Mass the same way. And I think that we don't want to lose that gift. That's part of the gift our Lord is giving us. So I would encourage you just to love our Lord in this time and let him love you, and know that we're praying for you. The sisters and the fathers are praying for you very specially. God bless you.